think you're going to hear every country try and claim a little victory and why this is an important fight. You start off with, for example, a country like Egypt. President Sisi expected to address the UN. He's been making the point all along that the fight against ISIS cannot be inside Syria alone, that it has to be against Islamic extremism all across the region. Obviously, he's battling a growing insurgency in the northern part of the Sinai. He also has the situation in Libya really escalating there with very similar fighting taking place. So you're going to hear countries make the case as to why this is an important fight. You're going to hear it obviously from President Obama. You're going to hear it from the Jordanians and others. But you're also, and you can certainly expect others, to raise the flag, as you mentioned, about the issue of sovereignty and another U.S. military involvement in the Middle East. Perhaps countries like Russia, who are obviously in wider geopolitics, have their own crises with Ukraine. They're not going to make this easy for the United States in terms of the ongoing diplomatic effort at the United Nations, and perhaps other countries like China. So you can expect a lot of diplomatic wrangling, but the countries closest to the conflict are certainly going to stand up and try to say this is an important fight, and everyone try to shape it in a little bit of their own narrative as to why they had to get involved and do this.
The Syria civil war has been so bloody and so complex. It's created all kinds of tangled alliances, but we're seeing something tonight in terms of these 5 Sunni nations who are engaging operationally in U.S. airstrikes against a group that is a self-proclaimed Sunni militant group in the midst of massive sectarian violence between Shia and Sunni, both in Iraq and also in Syria, which has become a very sectarian conflict, probably was a sectarian conflict from the beginning. I talked to Laith Al-Khoury about this. It does seem to me that the significance in the broader perception of this is quite large, that you do have these 5 Sunni nations participating in this.
It is. It's extremely important that you are building this coalition of countries, important countries, ideologically, like Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Gulf, who are certainly financially important, logistically important, no doubt about that. But there are also questions as to whether or not there was any communication with the Iranian government, which has been also very strong in its condemnation of ISIS, but has been left out of some of the talks, the diplomatic talks taking place in places like Paris that brought together dozens of countries to address the ISIS problem. Now, Iran has been saying all along that it wants to address the issue, but it says the coalition that is being built by the United States was not going to achieve anything. It obviously questioned President Rouhani in an interview with NBC's anchor. He said that he questioned whether or not airstrikes are actually going to get the job done, and whether or not the U.S. was afraid of putting boots on the ground. So this is, again, there are players in the region that are being left away from the table, and I think that goes back to the point you were making. It also widens some of that sectarian tension that still exists in places like Iraq and Syria.
NBC News foreign correspondent Ayman Mohideen, thank you. We are following breaking news at this hour as the U.S. has begun airstrikes against ISIS in Syria. Stay for the very latest live right here on MSNBC. We'll be right back.